So it's a pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon. We are in a very special place. 160 years ago, there was a special teacher, a prophet that came through this land at the time called Constantinople, Istanbul. And he talked a lot about what's happening in the world today. He talked about the troubles that we're facing, and he talked about what will happen as these troubles progress, and also things that will happen to our entire system overall. His words were, "The world is in travail, and its agitation waxeth day by day." So the world is in quite a bit of trouble right now. I am born in the United States. I am ethnically from Iran. I've lived in Israel. And so the things that are happening in the world today over the last week or two, with weaponization across countries, lives being lost, I don't think that this is the end of it. I think we're going to see a continuation of the troubles that we've had until we have a real breaking of our system. This Prophet Baha'u'llah continued to say that soon will the present day order be rolled up and a new one spread out in its stead. And if you think of our current system right now, if you think about where we've come from, we're in a real transitory phase. I'm in my early 40s, and last night as I was thinking in bed before going to sleep about how the world has progressed, I thought back to my primary school days, my elementary school days, and realized that in my elementary school days, the World Wide Web did not exist. Okay, in half a human lifetime, from my primary school days till today, we've moved from a world where there was no www to a world that you cannot live your life any single day without interacting with the World Wide Web. So the pace of change is tremendous. We have a lot of coins in this world, and I'm not talking about our crypto coins, I'm talking about our fiat currency coins. And when we think about this idea that our present day system will be rolled up and a new one spread out in its stead, we're not talking about tweaks to the system. We're talking about tectonic shifts in the way that humans will operate, in the way that humans will govern themselves, in the way that humans will interact, and in the way that humans will identify. Who are they? Do they belong to a particular family? Do they belong to a particular tribe? Do they belong to a particular country? Or do they belong to the human race? That identity is very important, and I'll come to that in a moment. But when we think about all these different coins, the dollar, the rand, the renminbi, and over about 180 different coins around the world, we realize that in many ways, this system is not too dissimilar from our current crypto system, where there are tons and tons of different coins. We're obviously used to this system. But as we go forward, what I propose to you is that we're not going to see as many cryptocurrencies out there. Many of these crypto assets will go to zero. But what we'll also see is a lot of the traditional coins, the fiat currencies, are also going to go to zero. And I'll make a big claim, which is that my belief is that within my lifetime, I told you that in the last 40 years, we've gone from a world where there was no World Wide Web to one in which it's pervasive. And I think that there's a good chance that in the rest of my lifetime, we'll go from a world where the dollar exists to a world where the dollar does not exist. All right, we're talking about tectonic change at the moment. This quote that's up here is by the Baha'i International Community. It was written in 1999, 1 decade before Bitcoin. It's a very powerful quote and says, "It would be difficult to exaggerate the psychological and social impact of the anticipated replacement of the jumble of existing monetary systems by a single world currency operating largely through electronic impulses." When you think about our currencies today, they're generally associated with the nation state. There are a few places like Europe where it's the euro, a few places in Africa where there are regional monetary unions. But for the most part, we have the identity of people that's associated with the nation state and a monetary system that goes along with that identity of a nation state. And I propose to you that right now the world is breaking through that nation-state paradigm. Right? If we look at our history, we've come from families to tribes to city-states to nation-states, which only came about in the 1600s, to today, where I don't know anybody's nationality. When I talk to all of you in the breaks, I don't ask what your passport is, but we converse and we're unified. And I think the divisions that we're creating today are historical remnants of the past that do not serve the current world system. There are too many frictions in our financial system. There are too many frictions by nature of all of these different borders that we've created that are really figments of our imagination that we have caused to become our own realities that are, for the most part, inhibitors to unity and to progress. If we look back at the history of monetary units and the reserve currencies of the world, you'll see that we've had many. But the maximum that these things really live is a couple of 100 years maybe. But for the most part, it's a few decades. And if you look at the US dollar in its current form since 1971, is only a few decades old. And the US dollar in its current form is really the only reserve currency that we've had that is unbacked by anything scarce like gold or silver or anything of that nature. And when you look at the difficulties that we're having, and we've put a few questions together at the end here about what will cause a downfall potentially of this current paradigm that we're in, is that we see that there's huge amounts of debt in our system. We see that regardless of your views of the Ukraine and Russian war, that the US dollar was used as a political tool for weaponization. Assets were frozen by virtue of the US dollar being the reserve currency of the world. And when you see that, again, regardless of your views, I'm not saying this way or that way is better or worse, but when a monetary tool becomes an instrument for political persuasion and potentially aggression, the rest of the world starts waking up and says, wait a minute, do we have an economic system here or is this a political system? And more you hear the discourse moving away from the US dollar. And there are many questions about what the next reserve currency will be. And I put it to you that my belief and my understanding and my reading of our entire reality right now is that the next reserve currency of the world will not be associated with a country. The next reserve currency of the world will not be associated with a country. Why? Because one, I think our identities are becoming more global, despite the forms of nationalism that we've seen recently and populism that we've seen. I think these are road bumps on the way. But also because of the emergence of this wonderful crypto asset class that we're all here in the room to explore. It's the first time that we have the technology to bring about a monetary system that travels the speed of an email, but that doesn't depend on a nation state or an institution, as we know. It's incredibly powerful. And it promises to serve humanity as a whole, and not just a subset of humanity at the expense of the rest of humanity. And a big point about this is that if you study monetary history, you'll see that it's trust, not tanks, determine monetary value and power. Trust, not tanks, determine monetary value and power. You should talk to people and ask them about why they think the US dollar has a value, or why the South African rand has value, or why the renminbi has value, or the yen, etc. And you often get, the response that it's backed by the government. And when you ask a little bit further into what that actually means, they say, no, it's got the full backing of the US government. But what does that actually mean in the context of the United States dollar growing 40% since 2020? Right? So 40% of all US dollars that have ever been created were created in the last few years. Definitely the US government and the US economy hasn't grown that much. So there's a disconnect between those things. And when you think about trust, and you think about monetary systems, you realize that even in places, VALR is, and I'll tell you a little bit about VALR in a moment, is from South Africa. We're headquartered in South Africa, neighbors with Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe, as you'll know, had a huge inflationary crisis. Even though they had the Zimbabwean dollar that was enforced on the people by the authorities, when the people said, we do not want this currency anymore, and if you want to pay me in it, you're going to have to pay me a lot of it to give up my hard work, sweat, and tears, there was hyperinflation, and the government itself wouldn't accept their own currency as payment for taxes. So it's trust in the system, trust in the scarcity of assets, trust in the integrity of a monetary system that causes it to be successful, not just guns and tanks. And that brings me to who VALR is. VALR, for those of you that don't know us, are a global crypto exchange headquartered in Johannesburg, South Africa. We're the largest exchange in Africa by volume. We have customers from all over the world. We've been around for 7.5 years now. We offer spot margin, perpetual futures, OTC, simple buy sell, shared accounts, top-notch security, and much more. It's not really the products and the features that I wanted to talk to you about today, but it's about this idea of trust. You know, we interview a lot of people that are coming into VALR. And as a result, we also interview people from other exchanges. And it's sometimes shocking to me to hear that some of the things of the past that resulted to the downfall of some of the larger cryptocurrency exchanges out there, some of those practices may still be going on in some crypto exchanges. And the reason I say that is that it's critical that all of us in this industry act with the utmost integrity. We offer the utmost trust that we can to our customers, the utmost security. That behind closed doors, where your customers cannot see what you're doing the right thing. You're acting with integrity. You're doing what needs to be done to safeguard the interests of the customer and not just lining your pocket, hoping that nobody will open the door to see what you're doing. And that's what we've been doing at VALR for 7.5 years. We're not shouting from the rooftops to say, look at us. But we're building strongly, we're building securely, and we're offering our now 1.5 million customers around the world and 1,300 institutional clients a solid offering. We've just signed 2 of the largest banks in South Africa to offer them a crypto asset service so that they can offer their clients crypto asset services based on our infrastructure, our liquidity, our pricing, etc. And we look forward to offering this to many more people around the world, but it has to be based on trust. I know in the crypto industry, we love to say, don't trust, verify. But practically in our day-to-day lives, we have to trust. We're a society that depends upon trust. You all trust that the engineers over here built this structure with hopefully the integrity that's needed to keep it up. You all trusted that the cooks in the kitchen prepared your food today in a way that won't poison you or make you ill. You trusted your flights that came here to ensure that they were maintained properly, etc., etc. So trust is not going away in our society. And what we really need to make sure for all the crypto people listening is that we build this industry with the integrity that it deserves so that we can reach the height of what its promise can be for humanity. Otherwise, the beauty of this technology, the beauty of what can be because of this new asset class, will be undermined by our actions, and humanity will be delayed in reaping the benefits therefrom. So, I want to kind of finish off with this idea. This is again from 1936. right? Where, again, this visionary called Shoghi Effendi said that a uniform and universal system of currency will simplify and facilitate intercourse and understanding among the nations and races of mankind. Again, 1936, before World War II, a uniform and universal system of currency will simplify and facilitate intercourse and understanding among the nations and races of mankind. When you take a step back, this is obvious. Who likes to pay 2% whenever you arrive at an international airport and you need to change some money, for example, or 2% when you swipe your card, your currency in your bank account is in one currency, but you have to pay in a different currency. There are so many frictions in our system that absolutely don't make any sense anymore. And so this old system that we have right now is being rolled up as we speak, and this new one is being spread out in its stead. And I leave you with this vision of the world, of Earth, and ask you to come along with VALR and myself toward an ever-advancing civilization. One that views the Earth for what it is, a single entity without borders, without man-made borders, a single entity that is our home. The Earth is but one country, and mankind, its citizens. Thank you so much.